The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension. Alien dignitaries filled the vast hall, each representing their own species, their own planet, their own way of life. But one figure stood alone, notably different: Ambassador Elena Moore, humanity's representative. Among the alien council members with shimmering scales, feathery fronds, or bioluminescent skin, Moore's very presence was a stark reminder of Earth's relentless advance into the galactic stage. A member of the Elder Council, a towering, translucent being named Ralith, addressed the assembly in a resonant voice. The Council has convened today to address the matter of Earth's history, specifically, its unyielding adaptability in the face of conflict. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Humanity's history, both distant and recent, was a fascinating study for many council members, a combination of wonder and war that struck a chord with civilizations who prided themselves on peace. The elder continued, his gaze fixed on Moore, who met it without wavering. Ambassador Moore, Ralith intoned, your people are resourceful, tenacious, and astonishingly creative. But these qualities, they pose a threat when paired with your propensity for conflict. Ralith's words hung in the air, eliciting a hushed silence. Moore listened carefully, hands clasped in front of her, showing no reaction to the loaded assessment. Ralith pressed on, citing humanity's turbulent history, the wars that fueled technological leaps, the rapid advancements in destructive capabilities, and the resilience that had seen them through every catastrophe. The council elder paused, his voice softer but no less serious. It is because of this history that we issue a clear decree: never let humans start a war. Moore took a deep breath, aware that the decree was not merely a cautionary statement, but a binding decision that would shape humanity's future in the galaxy. I appreciate the Council's concerns, she said, her tone even. Our history is a record of survival and adaptation, yes, but also of ingenuity and unity in the face of adversity. We understand the weight of our actions here. We are committed to peace. Council members nodded approvingly, yet a few exchanged uneasy glances. The Council knew that humanity's commitment to peace was tempered by an ironclad willingness to defend itself, a determination that, when provoked, had the force of a supernova. Before more could be said, a diplomatic aide rushed in, delivering a data pad to Moore. She glanced down at it, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the urgent message. A human colony on the fringes of Council space had been attacked. Moore's composure faltered for the first time. The message detailed a brutal assault on the colony by forces from the Tarkhan Dominion, a faction infamous for its ruthless expansionism. The casualties were minimal, but the destruction was widespread, clearly an intimidation tactic. Ralith observed her reaction with a furrowed brow. Ambassador Moore, is there an issue? A colony has been targeted, she replied evenly, though there was an edge to her voice. A human settlement razed. Unprovoked. A member of the Tarkhan delegation, an armored figure with menacing red eyes, made a dismissive gesture. The colony encroached on our space, he growled, voice dripping with derision. A misunderstanding. We will review it, when time permits. The Tarkhan's disregard ignited anger within Moore, but she held it back. She knew the Council's primary mandate was to avoid unnecessary conflict. Still, allowing such an attack to go unchallenged sent a dangerous message. She met Ralith's eyes. Elder, humanity demands a response. This is an act of aggression, and we are entitled to defend ourselves. But Ralith's expression hardened. Ambassador Moore, while we empathize, the Council does not wish to escalate hostilities. We will investigate but not retaliate. Moore opened her mouth to protest but stopped, realizing it would be futile. The Council saw humanity as too volatile, too inclined toward action. They wouldn't permit an outright response, not now, not under their decree. She took a breath, calming herself. I understand, Elder. But Earth does not forget. With that, she exited the chamber, feeling the weight of her frustration heavy on her shoulders. Back on Earth, Moore called an emergency meeting with the Human Defense Council. She conveyed the Council's refusal to allow a military response, drawing grim nods from her advisors. So what's the plan, Ambassador? One of her commanders asked. Moore's jaw clenched. We do what we do best. she replied. We find another way. Human strategists proposed a novel approach, the Echo Fleet Protocol. It was a maneuver unlike any direct assault. Instead of deploying an actual fleet, Earth would simulate a massive human military presence using holographic projections, decoy drones, and a network of signal-jamming satellites. The idea was to create a phantom armada that would look real enough to send the Tarkans into a panic without firing a single shot. As Moore watched the plan unfold, she felt a strange satisfaction. She knew the Council would frown upon it if they discovered her actions. But technically, she wasn't breaking any rules. Earth was simply using its resources and intelligence to make it clear that humanity would defend itself, in spirit if not in flesh and blood. Once everything was in place, the decoy fleet was activated. Invisible waves of encrypted transmissions spread across Tarkon space, projecting ghost fleets at their borders. The Tarkon Dominion's own scanners picked up the signals, showing what appeared to be a formidable fleet hovering menacingly close. Within hours, the Tarkans were in a frenzy. Military leaders were scrambling to organize their forces, sending out calls for reinforcements. The phantom fleets, however, kept multiplying, each one strategically placed to maximize psychological impact. Panic spread through Tarkon ranks, with their commanders utterly convinced that Earth was poised to retaliate with full force. And all the while, the real human fleet remained safely docked, thousands of light years away. Back on Earth, Moore watched the reports come in with a faint smile. The deception had worked better than expected. The Tarkon Dominion, for all their bluster, were just as susceptible to fear as any species. Humanity didn't need to start a war, they simply needed to show that they could end one, given the chance. Her thoughts turned back to the Council, to Ralith and the others who doubted humanity's restraint. She hoped they would one day understand what humans had achieved here. The Tarkon Dominion, faced with the Phantom Fleet looming along their borders, began to crack under the weight of their own fear. Their intelligence networks scrambled to confirm the authenticity of Earth's armada, but every scan, every analysis came up inconclusive. Tarkon warlords barked orders, trying to control the rising panic within their ranks. Meanwhile, the human decoys executed precise, eerie maneuvers, shifting formations every few hours, mimicking a fleet ready for a coordinated strike. The Tarkans' formidable defenses, once considered impenetrable, now felt dangerously insufficient as they braced for what seemed like an inevitable onslaught. On their homeworld, Tarkon citizens grew increasingly anxious, as rumors of Earth's impending attack spread through underground channels and whispered conversations. The Dominion's leaders held a tense emergency meeting, debating whether to confront Earth diplomatically or prepare for a full-scale war. As much as they didn't want to admit it, the Tarkon Dominion had underestimated humanity's cunning, and they now found themselves caught between fear and pride. Their aggressive posture toward the human colony had come back to haunt them. In every simulation, Earth's phantom forces were in a perfect position to strike multiple critical points simultaneously, exploiting weaknesses the Tarkans hadn't even known they had. Ambassador Moore received a secure message from one of her contacts within the Galactic Council, alerting her that the Council was beginning to take notice of the unusual military buildup along Tarkon borders. Ralith had made a formal inquiry to the Tarkans, advising them to de-escalate the situation. Moore knew this was the Council's way of nudging both sides toward a truce without involving itself directly. To the Council, this was a minor disruption, a skirmish between two factions they believed could resolve their differences diplomatically. But Moore understood it was much more than that. She contacted her tactical team, monitoring the Ghost Fleet's performance from a hidden command center on Earth. Moore asked her top strategist, General Farrow, about the response timeline. Farrow replied that they could sustain the ruse for another 3 days at most before the Tarkans either discovered the deception or took drastic measures. Moore gave a slight nod, deep in thought. She knew that time was ticking, and the gamble needed to end soon. But before she could give the order to disengage, a new transmission came through from a Tarkon official, surprisingly, a request for dialogue. The message was terse and formal, simply stating that the Tarkon Dominion wished to avoid unnecessary escalation, and was open to a peace conference. Seeing an opportunity to solidify Earth's position without firing a shot, Moore prepared a response. She was clear, diplomatic yet firm, stating that Earth would only consider a peace conference if the Tarkans committed to a non-aggression pact concerning all human territories. To her satisfaction, the Tarkans quickly agreed, eager to avoid what they perceived as an impending conflict with the human armada. Earth's ghost fleet had shifted the power dynamic, forcing even the proud Tarkans to tread cautiously. The peace conference was held virtually, with Tarkan and human representatives meeting through secured holographic channels. Tension was palpable even across the digital divide. Moore sat at the head of Earth's delegation, maintaining an air of calm authority as Tarkan officials warily eyed her through their screens. She laid out Earth's terms, emphasizing that any further attacks on human settlements would be met with immediate consequences. The Tarkan delegation reluctantly agreed to the terms, conceding to a boundary line that would keep their forces at a safe distance from Earth's colonies. Satisfied, Moore concluded the meeting and instructed her team to begin dismantling the Ghost Fleet. She knew that the deception had achieved its purpose. Earth's position in the galaxy had been elevated, and humanity's reputation had grown far beyond its fledgling years within the Council. Her decision to employ strategy over force had left the Tarkans and, perhaps more importantly, the Council itself, with a lasting impression of human capability. Back on Earth, Moore addressed a gathering of human officials and military personnel, commending their creativity and resilience. She stressed that, while the Phantom Fleet was a necessary measure this time, it represented the lengths Earth would go to avoid outright conflict, not to provoke it. Earth's military intelligence had turned the tide of perception without any lives lost, which, in her mind, was the true victory. Yet, as she looked out over the crowd, Moore couldn't ignore a lingering unease. The galaxy was vast, filled with civilizations even more powerful and unpredictable than the Tarkan Dominion. Humanity's ingenuity had served them well today, but Moore knew that their success would attract new eyes, some of whom would not be so easily intimidated by illusions. The next confrontation might require even more drastic measures, and Earth would need to be ready. Moore returned to her quarters, her mind already turning to future contingencies. Today, Earth had established itself as a force that valued strategy, patience, and precision over sheer might. But she also knew the galaxy would remember the Phantom Fleet, the psychological warfare they had wielded so deftly. And somewhere out there, she suspected, a new adversary was already calculating Earth's next move. As she closed her eyes, Moore allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. Earth had managed to send a powerful message. They were a species that could adapt, one that didn't rush into war but could hold its own in one if it came. And perhaps most importantly, a species the galaxy could no longer afford to underestimate. In the weeks following the peace conference, whispers about Earth's strategic maneuvering spread across the galaxy. The Phantom Fleet incident became the subject of hushed conversations among council members and a prime example of tactical ingenuity within military academies. Alien envoys sought Moore's counsel, intrigued by humanity's methods, while others observed from a distance, both wary and fascinated by Earth's newfound status as a force in the galaxy. For the first time, human colonies along the galactic fringes felt a sense of security that transcended mere defenses, rooted instead in the power of perception that Moore and her team had so masterfully created. Meanwhile, on the Tarkan homeworld, discontent simmered among Dominion leadership. The humiliation of the peace terms weighed heavily on their reputation, especially among the more aggressive factions. Some saw the concession as a necessary act of preservation, while others harbored resentment, considering the incident a grave insult. In high-ranking meetings, rumors surfaced of a secret faction within the Dominion determined to retaliate, to erase the shame Earth had brought upon them. The Tarkan military quietly began assembling intelligence on humanity, probing weaknesses in Earth's defenses, and exploring the psychology that had enabled humans to manipulate them so effectively. Moore was aware of these rumblings, but she also knew that her mission wasn't over. The Council's decree to keep humanity in check still loomed over every diplomatic move she made. She needed to ensure Earth's peaceful intentions were recognized while also conveying the message that humanity was not to be underestimated. She began advocating for Earth's involvement in Council peacekeeping efforts, presenting human perspectives on negotiation and conflict resolution. By joining these initiatives, Moore hoped to showcase humanity's constructive side and, in doing so, lessen the perceived threat Earth posed to the Council. Her push for Earth's inclusion in Council peacekeeping drew mixed reactions. Some members welcomed it, seeing humanity's skills as an asset to their collective security. Others, however, interpreted it as Earth angling for influence and leverage. Moore anticipated this resistance but knew her approach was working when Ralith, the Council elder, approached her. He expressed measured approval for Earth's contributions, acknowledging the effectiveness of their peaceful strategies but reminding her, with a note of caution, that any deviation from peaceful methods would reignite Council scrutiny. Moore's response was firm, assuring Ralith of Earth's commitment to diplomacy and stability. Just as Moore felt progress being made, reports arrived that a high-ranking Tarkhan commander had openly accused Earth of deception and dishonor in the Phantom Fleet incident. The accusation came with an implicit threat, warning that if Earth continued to toy with galactic powers, the Tarkhan Dominion would respond decisively. The Council issued statements discouraging this rhetoric, yet Moore knew that, within the ranks of the Dominion, there were elements itching to spark conflict. She decided it was time to solidify Earth's defenses without raising alarm. Under the guise of Council-approved security upgrades, Earth's military began enhancing colony outposts with advanced surveillance and stealth technology, capable of masking human settlements from long-range scans. Additionally, a covert initiative began training a specialized defense unit, operatives skilled in psychological warfare, diplomacy, and unconventional tactics, a team that could respond decisively to any future threats without drawing direct Council intervention. Simultaneously, Moore initiated discreet communications with trusted Council allies, strengthening Earth's diplomatic ties with species that valued resilience and innovation. She knew that if conflict erupted, having allies who respected Earth's resolve would be critical. To Moore's satisfaction, several species extended gestures of goodwill, seeing humanity as a potential ally in maintaining galactic balance. As these preparations continued, Moore received an encrypted message from a Tarkhan informant. The message confirmed her suspicions. Factions within the Dominion were conspiring to undermine Earth's influence, working on new strategies to outmaneuver humanity's psychological tactics. The message also included a veiled warning: the Dominion's leadership was fractured, and some factions had no interest in Council mandates or restraint. Moore immediately convened her defense advisors, sharing the intelligence and emphasizing the need for vigilance. If the Tarkans moved forward with a direct strike, they would do so in a way that tested Earth's limits without outright declaring war. Her team began drafting countermeasures, drawing from Earth's deep history of asymmetric warfare. They proposed a mirror defense strategy, designed to reflect any small-scale Tarkhan aggression back at them, amplifying its impact without engaging in outright battle. It was a method that would allow Earth to respond without technically violating Council regulations. Moore approved, knowing this would send a clear message: Earth could protect its own interests without falling into the trap of open conflict. The strategy soon saw its first test. A small Tarkhan fleet appeared on the outskirts of human-claimed territory, its presence ostensibly explained as a training exercise. Earth's operatives moved quickly, deploying covert signal disruptors and mirror defense decoys, which distorted the Tarkhan fleet's readings, creating illusions of larger threats. Confused and unable to trust their own sensors, the Tarkhan fleet retreated after several fruitless attempts to gain reliable data. The mirror defense strategy became a subtle but effective tool. Each time a Tarkhan ship appeared near human space, it was met with the same calculated response: a dance of invisible forces that drove Tarkhan commanders to frustration, unable to understand why their tactics consistently failed. Slowly but surely, the incursions began to wane. Earth's approach was working, and the Council noted the absence of human-initiated conflicts with tacit approval. Ralith reached out to Moore again, congratulating her on Earth's adherence to Council mandates and its newfound reputation for diplomacy over direct action. He acknowledged humanity's ability to defend itself creatively without inciting violence, a method he hinted might serve as a model for other species facing similar threats. Moore thanked him, understanding that this subtle endorsement strengthened Earth's standing in the Council. Months passed, and the Tarkhan Dominion's aggression quieted, its leadership fractured and its plans to antagonize Earth stymied by internal discord. Humanity, meanwhile, had established itself as both an ally and a mystery within the galactic community, a species known for its resolve, restraint, and willingness to defend without unnecessary bloodshed. As Moore reflected on the delicate balance Earth had achieved, she felt a surge of cautious optimism. Humanity had proven its strength without compromising its principles, and in doing so, had created a foundation for lasting peace. She knew challenges lay ahead. The galaxy was ever shifting, and threats would inevitably arise. But Earth was ready, now more than ever, with alliances forged and strategies refined. Humanity had demonstrated that while they might never start a war, they were masters of ending one, not through brute force, but through the undeniable power of resilience, intelligence, and unyielding resolve. In the months that followed, Earth's reputation within the Council evolved. Humanity was no longer viewed as a mere fledgling race but rather as a resilient force, capable of defending its interests with an unmatched strategic prowess. The Council, having seen Earth's unique approach to diplomacy and conflict management, considered extending a formal invitation for Earth to serve on the Inner Circle, an advisory group with substantial influence over galactic policy. Ambassador Moore was aware of the political significance of this invitation and prepared her delegation meticulously, knowing this would place Earth under further scrutiny but also cement its influence. The Tarkhan Dominion, still seething from their failed attempts to provoke Earth, continued to plot in secret. Unwilling to abandon their pursuit of retribution, they shifted tactics, seeking to undermine Earth's alliances instead of direct confrontation. Tarkhan operatives began spreading misinformation, hoping to incite suspicion among Earth's allies and sow discord within the Council. These efforts, though subtle, were enough to create ripples. Questions arose among allied species about Earth's true intentions and whether its tactical maneuvers had ulterior motives. Moore's team, alert to any shifts in the political landscape, swiftly addressed these rumors by holding open forums and transparency briefings, countering the misinformation with facts, and openly sharing Earth's commitment to peace. Moore anticipated that the Tarkans would continue to escalate their interference, but she was prepared to expose them if necessary. Privately, her team collected data on these activities, amassing a dossier that documented the Dominion's subversive actions. This evidence would serve as leverage if the situation escalated, allowing Earth to defend itself diplomatically should the Dominion's tactics become overtly hostile. Soon, Moore received word that Ralith and other high-ranking council members were growing increasingly wary of the Tarkhan Dominion's behavior. Unbeknownst to Moore, some within the council had already begun investigating the Tarkans independently. Reports of minor skirmishes near Tarkhan borders and sudden shifts in Dominion policy sparked interest, and a handful of council factions approached Moore, seeking an alliance to counterbalance the Dominion's influence. Seeing this as an opportunity to strengthen Earth's position, Moore engaged in careful negotiations, establishing a coalition of mutual protection with a select group of council species. The coalition grew, and as it did, so did Earth's reach within council circles. Moore's team coordinated joint military exercises, strategic planning forums, and diplomatic exchanges that showcased Earth's adaptability and cooperative spirit. Through these activities, Earth not only bolstered its defenses but deepened trust with its allies, creating a network of support that would prove crucial in deterring Tarkhan aggression. Over time, the Dominion's tactics backfired as Moore's coalition emerged stronger, its members united in their resolve to uphold Council stability. The Council's Inner Circle finally extended a formal invitation for Earth's entry, acknowledging the contributions Earth had made to maintaining peace. Moore accepted, aware that this would elevate Earth's standing but also subject it to greater responsibility and scrutiny. During her inaugural address as an Inner Circle representative, she emphasized Earth's commitment to diplomacy, resilience, and the importance of mutual understanding among all species. Her speech resonated, particularly with younger council members who admired Earth's unique approach to strength and strategy. Yet, Amid the applause, Moore caught the cold gaze of Tarkhan representatives, their expressions unreadable but clearly aware of the setback Earth's ascent represented to their ambitions. Despite her success, Moore knew that peace was far from guaranteed. She instructed her team to remain vigilant, prepared for any shift in Tarkhan's strategy. Her foresight proved essential when, weeks later, a coordinated cyber attack targeted key Earth infrastructure. The attack was sophisticated, its origin masked behind layers of misdirection, but Moore's team detected patterns linking it to the Tarkhan Dominion. They acted swiftly, rerouting critical systems to backups and launching countermeasures that neutralized the threat without major disruptions. While no official proof directly tied the Dominion to the cyber attack, Moore shared the findings with her coalition partners, warning them of the escalating tactics. In response, Earth and its allies implemented advanced defensive protocols, expanding their cyber defenses and forming a rapid response unit to address any future threats. This cyber incident further solidified the coalition, with each member enhancing their own systems and sharing intel with Earth. The Dominion, realizing their attempts to destabilize Earth were becoming increasingly futile, grew more isolated within the Council. Finally, the Council convened an emergency session to address the rising tensions surrounding the Tarkhan Dominion. Moore and her coalition presented their evidence, carefully illustrating the Dominion's subversive actions without directly accusing them of open hostility. The Council, known for its cautious and measured approach, issued a formal warning to the Dominion, urging them to halt any further destabilization efforts and respect the established peace protocols. This warning, though diplomatically worded, carried a clear message: the Council would not tolerate further interference. Back on Earth, Moore briefed her team, reflecting on the months of intense political maneuvering. Earth had not only defended its interests but reshaped its standing in the galaxy, emerging as both a protector of peace and a strategic force that valued resilience over aggression. Her coalition, once an unassuming alliance, had become a beacon for species seeking stability and security without the shadow of conquest. As Moore looked out over the vast expanse of stars from her command center, she knew this was only the beginning. Earth had forged its place in a galaxy of uncertainty, its role defined not by fear or dominance but by an unyielding commitment to safeguarding its future. Though the Tarkhan Dominion had been momentarily subdued, she understood that there would always be new challenges, new threats, and new alliances to consider. But Earth was ready, emboldened by the strength of its principles and the bonds it had formed. Humanity had stepped into its role on the galactic stage, a role that would demand both courage and wisdom, traits that Moore knew her people possessed in abundance.